That rave review from judges could sound like the kiss of death, so I'm not quite sure. But that is nice to hear. Thank you. I didn't know that. I am struck. I was in court even last week in Dale State in a death penalty case in a jury selection. And I'm struck by the numbers and the different types of people that you have to persuade. That, am I on? Yes? I was getting this. Was that like, okay. Okay. That you have to persuade. We all think of the 12 jurors that obviously you have to persuade to see the world your way. You also have to persuade the judge that occasionally some law like Brady should be enforced. You have to persuade the judge's law clerk not to put stock in everything the Supremes have decided in the last 20 years. You have to persuade the bailiffs or the deputies that guard your client if he or she is incarcerated that really allowing them to eat this Snickers bar is not going to put them in danger of losing their stripes. You have to persuade the court reporter that it might be worth her while to get you daily copy if you need it for your expert witness the next day. You have to persuade a lot of folks. But sometimes I think we forget that one person that we have to persuade that's just as important as all the others is our client. We have to persuade our client that we are there for them, that we are the best lawyer on the face of the earth to be the guardian of their rights, that we care about them, that they are important to us, and that we are a team. Now, you know, some people think, well, really I don't, because they're poor, and I'm appointed, and they really don't have a choice. So what difference does it make? Well, besides, you know, doing what I think is the right thing for the right reasons and being concerned about what they're concerned about, I think a very practical reason for that is this. If they're stuck with us, we're stuck with them. And we're going to go through a trial together. Now, we can go through it kicking and screaming, or we can go through it rollerblading and just kind of glide along. I prefer to rollerblade. So what I'm talking about is not just what I think we need to be concerned about and need to do for the right reasons because we are good, caring people, but also because it is effective and it is efficient in helping you to get through the trial with the best possible results. We have to be concerned about the same elements as when we're talking to a jury. We have to be concerned about our credibility so that they trust us, so that they'll cooperate. We have to be concerned about our likability. It matters whether or not they like us. They're a lot more willing to do what we need them to do if they like us than if they don't. That's just the way it is. And we have to be able to communicate with them in a way that is communication, so we're not misfiring. I'm reminded of the packaging that comes with the, probably isn't made anymore, but Kenner Toys used to make a Superman outfit. And on the instructions in the packaging it said, caution, wearing cape does not enable user to fly. You think they might have had a little tort action happening, but just like on the TV show, it doesn't say I can. Well, it makes me think of what you all and we all are charged with. Wearing the cape of the lawyer does not automatically enable for you to do every single part of your job naturally and with ease without focusing on it. And this business of communicating with your client sometimes takes just as much work and just as much focus as writing a winning motion. So that's what we're going to focus on for the next 30 minutes or so and during your exercise tomorrow. We should care because our client is also a great resource. Our best source of discovery many times is our client. Sometimes they know a little more than we wish they did. But they can enlighten us as to their perspective as to who the players are and why they're there. They can tell us a wealth of information We need them to be able to do that and to be willing to do that. Many times we need their cooperation without time to really explain. I was talking to Sunwolf about this just a minute ago. Your first meeting with them sets the stage for the way your communication, your relationship is going to work through the entire trial process. And this case that I was just working on in South Carolina last week taught me how valuable that is. This attorney, well, our client, LeVar, ate way too much lead paint as a child and has severe organic brain damage from the lead poisoning. And he has no impulse control, or very little impulse control. We were arguing, thank God no jurors were in the courtroom, but about why a juror wasn't qualified, because he said he was afraid of black people, but also angry whites. He really didn't know, he told the judge 6 times, if he could put out of his mind the press that he'd read about the case. And he really would be a whole lot more inclined to give the death penalty in every murder case, but he'd think about not doing it. So we were arguing strenuously that he wasn't qualified as a juror, and the judge, surprise, found him qualified. Well, all of us thought, excuse me. LeVar, however, stood up and said it. And turned over a chair in case we weren't sure how he really felt about it, and started pacing like this toward the solicitor, the prosecutor. I was wishing I had a remote control to, gear him back over. And, maybe it was my mental power that did it. I don't know. But he did make a U-turn, and he came back. The deputies were trying to get him, and he was shaking them off. And he had a relationship with his lawyer that had developed in baby steps over the last year and a half, so that lawyer and he had verbal cues, because we knew something could happen. We didn't know it would be this. And all the lawyer had to do was to keep saying the verbal cues over and over and over in the same hushed tone. And he came back, and he got focused, and he sat down. And the deputies didn't take him down. And the jury is in the box this week, and he is not sitting there in shackles. And believe me, if he had not had that relationship with his lawyer, that's exactly where he would be right now. He would be sitting in shackles in front of the jury. So I say that to illustrate the importance of starting this and starting it early. Let's talk for a minute about the initial client interview. And at the risk of writing with chalk and wearing navy blue, and I'm sure I'll touch myself and end up with chalk prints, I'm going to do it. What are some of our goals? The initial client interview, first time we meet the client. What are some of our goals? Oh, you're good. Okay, establish trust. What else? Get control of the client? Have you guys heard this talk already? You're supposed to be giving me bad answers. You're right. Give the client control.
Introduce yourself. Tell who you are.
Wow. I'm going to write self-disclose, okay? Man, you guys are good. You can do this. Okay, explain process. What else? Talk about attorney fees if you're in private practice. Okay. Okay.
Establish trust, rapport.
I think let's add that, Steve. I think that's just a little bit different, but it goes up there. And what was the last one somebody said? Evaluate. Any more? Okay, I don't disagree with any of these, and I applaud most of them. What are our clients' goals? Get out. Bond. Get off. We know what we mean by that. To know what's going on.
confidence in us. Yeah, besides the lawyer.
Exactly, to evaluate us.
We have some light at the end of the tunnel.
I'm going to call that hope. Okay, what happens if we go in intent on doing this, and they go in intent on doing this, and we may be thinking that, you know, let me tell you a little bit about me, is really the thing to lead with, and they may be wanting to know, when in the hell can I get out of here? I don't really care where you went to law school. You know, what's going to happen? We're going to be like this the whole time, and nobody is going to get their goals met. I think we have to acknowledge that our goals for the initial interview may be different, probably will be different, and we have to make a commitment to meeting both our goals and their goals in whatever order is necessary. And I'm going to suggest this strategy to you. You certainly don't have to do it. I'm going to suggest that when you have an initial client interview, or if that's the setup for your exercise tomorrow, it may be something different, that you try to do this by just measuring their, letting them know what to expect, by controlling and managing their expectations. That you tell them, I don't care if you have 10, 15, 20 minutes or 2 hours, that you say, I've only got 20 minutes here today. Now, what's that done immediately? If they were thinking, thank God my attorney's finally here, I'm going to have 2 hours to tell her what happened, and you get up in 20 minutes and say, whoops, gotta go, they're going to be angry right away. So tell them how long you have, and that if you need more time later, you'll take it. Tell them what you have to do today, that you have some answers you've got to get, or you have some information you need, or what your goals are. Ask them how's the best way to find out what they need. Ask them. You know, this is your first time meeting with me. What do you need to know today? What do you need? And then negotiate and say, I tell you what I need to know is going to take 15 minutes. I think I can do 1 and 2 off of your list of 5 in 5 minutes. Can I have my 15 first if I promise you you'll have your 5? What are they going to say 9 times out of 10? Are most of our clients used to be given a choice about anything like that? No. Shocks them. Shocks them. If they say, no, I need to have my 5 first, I'm going to say, give it to them. Fine, you can have yours first. Can I have mine later? I'll give you 10. Can I take 10? This is not about control. Yet. It is not about control. In the end, you will have much more control if you give some up right now. It's not easy for attorneys. What do you think we talked about some of their goals that they may not articulate, like evaluating us. What do you think they look to evaluate us?
How confident we sound in their story. They got to tell us what happened, and they're going to listen for our doubt in their statement. It won't blow up. It's figuring out.
Okay.
They're going to tell us the first thing after bond they want to blurt out is their side of the story.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't hit the line check or whatever, and then they're going to listen back for our feedback. And if we sound tremendously doubtful or even minorly doubtful, they're going to lose confidence in us, and they want to hear something affirmative in response.
Okay, I think that's true. And many times if we cannot affirm our belief in their outrageous story, we need to look for something that we can confirm. I want to suggest some other goals that you have when you go in there that I think will make the process a little more fun and a little more meaningful for you. Make it a goal for yourself to learn something about your client that will surprise you, to learn something that you didn't expect to learn. This is not, for example, where the gun is buried. I don't mean for you to learn something like that. I'm not talking about their case. I'm talking about them. Learn something about them. Learn a connection that you have with them. Learn something that you have in common with them. It may be dynamic. It may not be, oh, you know, we both love tennis. It may be a dynamic. They may be an only child. They may love dogs. They may have a pet iguana. I don't know what. But learn something that you have in common. And learn something that if you can't like, I generally like the vast majority of the clients that I work with. Occasionally there's one that makes it very difficult. And when I was a student in psychology, I know in the clinical psychology program they teach you, if you do not learn something that you can hold dear about a client, then you cannot help them. So if there's not something that you like about them, find something that you can hold dear or something that you want to protect. It may, and you're not going to find these all in the first interview, but I want these to be your goals, and keep looking. Keep looking for these things, and you will find them. LeVar that I talked about a minute ago is actually not that hard to like, but sometimes it makes it easier when you look at your client as a child, for example. Somebody faxed to us a newspaper article. He was always in behavior disorder or special education classes in school. And when he was, I think, 8 or 9 years old, his class for behavior disordered kids had the gentleman's club to try to teach these little boys how to be gentlemen and be polite. And they had a tea party. And they all dressed up, and they all brought someone special to them to class that day, and they had a tea party. And they invited this writer for the newspaper to attend. And she wrote about LeVar and his Easter suit, which I'm sure his grandmother had bought him, and about the tissue paper carnation that he had. And she wrote about how his guest was the principal and how he escorted her back to her office, and she didn't want him to be embarrassed about the hug that he gave her. Now, why do you think LeVar had to bring the principal? Exactly. Because he didn't have any family who would come. I mean, no kid wants to bring the principal. If I think about, if LeVar was hard for me to like and I thought about that little LeVar, I would have no problem finding something I wanted to fight for. And that's what we have to look for. It fuels your batteries. It keeps you charged and connected to your case. Where you are, of course, is very important as to what you need to talk about and the way that you need to be. Who most of the time sees your clients in jail for the first time? Okay, a good portion of us. Then we have other things to do, other barriers to break down that if you're seeing them in your office, you don't. What's one thing you can always do in a jail that wins you brownie points immediately? Who said cigarettes? It's the little things. It really is the little things. Asking that they be taken out of cuffs if they're in cuffs. Asking if you can sit in the, I don't know what it is, if you don't have a room, if you have a, glass between you, that you can sit in the one thing where you hand paper back and forth so that you can give them a lifesaver, for God's sakes. I'm a lifesaver queen. I have them in court. I find out who has what favorite flavors, and I will give them to them. That's one contraband I'm not too scared of in most jails. Giving somebody a lifesaver, asking what their favorite flavor is, and having them in court the next day gets you further than you would ever imagine. It's a little bitty thing, and if anybody's saying, oh, well, yeah, for you, my clients are so tough, they're not gonna. David Lewis, who's, I don't know if he's gonna be here during your session at the college or not, was on General Noriega's defense team. Hardly a cream puff of a client. General Noriega had a weakness apparently for Oreos. So David would bring Oreos when he needed to meet with the general and put the package out there and let the general have a couple. And when he wasn't being terribly cooperative, David would take the Oreos out. And then when the general would open up and be a little more helpful, David would take out an Oreo, put it down. I mean, this worked so well that he never had to resort to the ultimate weapon, double stuff. He did all this just on regular Oreos. Find what you can both bitch about or trash? And this is easier than when they're in jail. What can you always trash? The food. It's terrible. Learn some guards or some workers that are particularly hard to deal with. Learn what the inmates call them that. Do anything that you can to let them know that you have some appreciation for where they are. Learn to use their language. When I say their language, I'm talking about there's a whole different code, but there's certain names for things. In Fulton County jail in Atlanta, when they get sent to the state penitentiary, it's just called going down the road. That's just what everybody calls it, going down the road. So when you use that phrase, they know you know part of what goes on in there. If there's an experiential deficit, if there's something that you are just clue-free about, ask about it. Say, God, just be honest about it. They will enlighten you, and then you can talk about how it sucks. Just get on their side. If they're in your office, it's much easier. And by the way, when I'm talking about this language thing, I don't mean, did anybody see Airplane? When they're trying to find somebody who speaks jive, and there's June Cleaver going, I speak jive, in her little June Cleaver accent. Don't do that. It shows through. But I'm talking about doing what's genuine. What do all of our clients have in common, whether they're in jail or in our, Fifth Avenue hoity-toity law office? What do they all have in common? They're in trouble, and they're scared. They are all stressed. What are other emotions every one of our clients have when they stand a citizen accused? Frustration, anger, fear, confusion. What else? Okay, we're not going to go there. Isolation. Of a public, they distrust of you or somebody who is, works for the government, basically, gets paid by the government. That's right. Put yourself dynamically in that. Is there anyone here who has not felt those emotions that we just named? Your heart starts pounding in your throat when you see those lights behind you. Put yourself where this fine person has already put himself. Put yourself there. Whenever you feel that panic, whenever you feel that fear of the unknown, whatever frustrates you, whatever makes you angry, get connected with those emotions, because you can dynamically relate to your client a lot more, and you can reflect back what you know they're feeling in a meaningful way. And that is very, very important in winning their trust. If they're not forthcoming, I would try saying something like, if I were in your shoes, I think I would feel. And usually that will just open the floodgates. There's a barbecue restaurant in a little town called Perry, Georgia, that's, some miles south of here, named Kimberly's. It's owned by a previously poor family, and still fairly poor family, with a daughter named Kimberly, who was in an automobile accident. She had a closed head injury, and they got some settlement, enough to buy a barbecue restaurant, because they wanted to have a place for Kimberly to work. And so Kimberly works at Kimberly's. It's a little family-owned place. And their slogan, I love, not because I think it would move a lot of barbecue, but because it's so brutally honest. And it says on their business cards, on the wall, everywhere, our barbecue product is important to us, and we want it to be important to you. Now, I just think that's hysterical. To how many people is barbecue important? Not that, okay, a couple back there. But what they're saying is, we want this is so important to us, it's our life. We really want our barbecue, they don't say tangy, juicy, tender, succulent, whatever barbecue's supposed to be. They don't want it to be that. They want it to be important to you. Well, our clients are just like Kimberly. What's important to them, they want to be important to us. So if they say something like, I'm not getting to use the phone when I need to call my son who works night shift, and you've got a bond hearing or a prelim tomorrow, please don't say that's not important, because it is important to them. Acknowledge that whatever is important to them is also important to you, and don't feel like if it's something you can do nothing about, that you don't need to acknowledge it, because you're just going to have to say, well, I'm sorry, I can't do anything about that. If you acknowledge it, and if you show that it is important to you, you have done something about it. Many times that's all they need. We learn more when we're listening than when we're talking. Listen, listen, listen. Ask questions that show empathy. Allow yourself to be curious. I'm going to tell one quick story. I've got to move on. I was working with a guy named Frank who was charged with killing his wife. She was an Asian woman, about 4'11", weighed less than 100 pounds. He's about 6'2", white man with that kind of carrot top orange hair, a computer geek looking guy. And he killed her with his bare hands in front of their 7-year-old child. Put her in a hefty bag, garbage bag, drove the child and the body around for a while, trying to decide what to do. Then thought really he probably should just not do anything, so he went back, took the child back in the house, put the body back on the floor where he killed her, called 911, said, guess what I just did, and went outside and waited for the police to come. So this was a death penalty case, although he had a chance to plea, as it turned out. I was visiting him in jail one day, and I just wondered what in the hell he did all day, because he just, wasn't like a lot of the guys in there, and I couldn't imagine him really bonding with many people or shooting hoops or whatever, and I just wondered, what do you do in here? Hardly a brilliant question. And he said, I read, I love to read. Well, what do you like to read? Surprise, surprise, Stephen King. Well, it scares me too bad. I don't read it. But I had seen that movie, Misery. Do you remember that movie? So I asked if he'd read Misery. So if you haven't read or seen it, there's a scene in there with this crazy-ass nurse who's broken some guy's, James Caan's, both his legs. And finally, he gets loose and kills her with his bare hands. So I asked him if he'd read Misery. Eyes glaze over, fixes a stare, and he says, I was on page 238 when I killed my wife. And then he went on and on and on about how she had him imprisoned, how she had him trapped, just like Kathy Bates did James Caan. It was no more a physical prison than anything, but psychologically, he was trapped with her because he wanted her back and he couldn't have her. As I said, we were able to plead the case, but had we not been, would that not have been very important to our theory of the case? And would I ever have found that out if I hadn't just thought, what the hell do you do in here all day? So allow yourself to be curious and ask questions about things that have nothing to do with the case. Remember, our client's story began before the alleged incident or the night in question. Few cases spring from a logical sequence of events. They know the beginning of the story, we don't. And their perspective is essential for us to understand if we're going to communicate it to the jury. When you ask about the incident, make them listen to the narrowness of your question. Say things, if you don't want to know, the big T yet, then don't say, tell me what really happened, Clients confess to me, I say good morning, and they say, there was a Colombian involved. So I have to say, I haven't, heard what the detective said yet. What did he say? I hear your cousin's talking to the police. What do you think she's going to say? And make them answer only what you're asking at that point. That way we don't get to a situation where we're talking about early. I'm talking initially. Obviously, you're going to progress the more you get closer to trial. Of them saying, I swear I didn't do it, I swear I didn't do it, I swear I didn't do it, and, their fingerprints are there and they're on videotape, and you're having to say, liar, liar, pants on fire. So think about other ways to ask them so that you'll learn that. Look out for mental health cues if they're not interacting with you, If they seem paranoid, maybe people are out. I loved a psychologist evaluation of a guy who was in this complex sting operation. He was the target. He was delusional. He thought the cops were out to get him. They were out to get him. Sometimes if a client has a delusional system, you have to join it to figure out what's going on. Be aware of boundaries. They need you to set boundaries. You will not do anything improper. You will demand their respect, and you will give that back to them. Try to answer everything with an answer that inspires confidence. Somebody said that earlier. I'm going to talk about what to leave them with. There is nothing too basic to instruct them. Don't talk to people in the cell, that kind of thing. Everybody needs to hear that. Tell them what comes next. Please don't use words like the prelim. They don't know what that is. Tell them what to expect. If you argue emotion, you know you don't have a chance in hell of winning. Tell them, we are not going to win this, but I'm going to argue it like I think I am. I just don't want you to be disappointed. I mean, if you know. Otherwise, it just sets them up too much. Let them know how to reach you. Let them know there's something you like about them. Give them an assignment. Give them something to do. If it's write down what you dream about at night, I don't care what it is, but give them something to do. I've taught clients how to shepherdize. Make a promise that you can keep, just for the purpose of keeping a promise. I don't care if it's, I'm going to bring in Wild Cherry Lifesavers tomorrow. Just make a promise that you can keep. And finally, end with hope. Give them some element of hope when you walk away so that they go back to their cell or their condo or wherever they're going feeling a little bit better. I'm going to read one quote to you before I close. Doesn't have all that much to do with client interview, but I think it does have a lot to do with your 2 weeks here at the college and probably the work that you do every day. There's a reference to God in here. If you'd rather, I'm going to read it as it's written because it's a quote. If you want to substitute the universe or something, I think it works just as well. This is a quote from Nelson Mandela from his 1994 inaugural speech. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We were born to manifest the glory of God within us. It's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. So I encourage you to find your light, to discover your power, and to keep serving those that you serve so very well. Thank you.